Economic theory often begins with a heavily abstracted model to isolate basic mechanics. We picture the idealized monopoly operating in a vacuum, a single firm producing exactly one highly standardized product for a captive market. The math for this isolated firm is straightforward. The pricing strategy is governed by the Lerner index, which dictates that the firm's markup over marginal cost is inversely proportional to the product's own price elasticity. If demand is rigid, the markup is high. If demand is flexible, the markup shrinks. This single product model rarely describes the behavior of modern corporations. Most dominant firms operate as Mehrgut monopoly, multi-product monopolies, managing interconnected portfolios of goods and services. Moving from a single product to a portfolio introduces an immediate complication. A firm's products interact. Selling one item alters the consumer's demand for another, and manufacturing one item changes the production costs of another. The second complication arises when we factor in time. If a firm sells a durable product, closing a sale today removes that buyer from the market, sabotaging the firm's own ability to sell that exact same product tomorrow. To find a firm's true optimal pricing strategy, we must adjust the standard monopoly model. This requires relaxing the strict assumptions of independent demand, isolated production costs, and instantaneous consumption. Real-world monopoly power does not come from maximizing a single static profit margin. It is derived from internalizing and controlling the externalities across a firm's entire portfolio and timeline. We start by constructing a mathematical baseline. Imagine a single firm that holds monopoly power over a portfolio of multiple goods, labeled Item 1 through Item N. We apply two strict theoretical constraints to this portfolio. Keine Nachfrageverflechtung. Under these constraints, altering the price of good 1 has absolutely no effect on the consumer demand for good 2. Simultaneously, ramping up the manufacturing of good 1 does not change the marginal cost of producing good 2. The profit maximization equation for this firm simply adds up the revenue minus the cost for each individual product across the entire portfolio. This text documents the first-order conditions for that problem. Because the products do not interact, the math resolves back to equation 1.1. The firm applies the classic inverse elasticity rule, or Ramsey pricing, to each item individually. As long as demand and costs remain perfectly isolated, a massive multi-product monopoly operates exactly like a collection of small single-product monopolies that have no awareness of one another. We relax the first constraint. Production costs remain separate, but we introduce eine Nachfrageverflechtung, demand interdependence. Consumers now evaluate the firm's products relative to each other. The expanded multi-product formula shows the firm must account for how changing good I's price affects demand for good J. The new variable is the cross-price elasticity term. If negative, the goods are substitutes. Lowering good 1's price destroys sales of good 2, cannibalizing revenue. To prevent this self-inflicted damage, the optimal response is to raise prices. The firm sets the markup for both substitutes higher than the static Lerner index dictates, protecting its internal market share by suppressing competition between its own divisions. If the cross-price elasticity is positive, the goods are complements. Lowering the price of good 1 creates a synergy effect, boosting the consumer demand for good 2. Here, the firm's optimal response flips. It must lower prices below the static Lerner index. Sacrificing margin on individual items is mathematically required to drive higher total volume across the bundled products. In extreme complementary scenarios, the firm may push the price of the first good entirely below marginal cost. The firm absorbs a calculated loss on a primary product to guarantee highly profitable repeated sales on the complementary items. Multi-product pricing requires active manipulation. The firm steers consumers by deliberately raising prices on substitutes and discounting complements, capturing the value of the externalities it creates for itself. We re-isolate consumer demand to look at the other side of the ledger. We introduce nicht zerlegbare Kosten, interdependent, non-separable costs. This cost linkage frequently happens across time periods, a dynamic known as learning by doing. This text outlines the mechanism. High production output in period 1 creates mechanical efficiencies and institutional knowledge, directly causing a reduction in the firm's marginal cost for period 2. This generates a pricing dilemma. If the monopolist optimizes its price strictly for maximum profit in period 1, production volume stays relatively low, leaving the firm with stubbornly high manufacturing costs in period 2. The optimal solution is to set the price in period 1 strictly below the standard myopic monopoly price. The lower price drives immediate volume, forcing the factory to scale. When production costs are temporally linked, sacrificing short-term margin is a strict mathematical investment. It accelerates learning and locks in higher structural efficiency for the future. We wipe the slate of multiple products and focus on a single, infinitely durable good. This section defines the intertemporal demand link, known as Dauerhafte by Monopol. Physical durability forces an intertemporal link on consumer behavior. Because a buyer only needs an infinitely durable good once, selling it to them today permanently eliminates them from tomorrow's market. The monopolist falls into a trap. In period 1, the firm charges a premium, skimming the consumers with the highest willingness to pay. In period 2, the firm is left facing a residual demand pool composed entirely of lower valuation consumers. The firm has a massive, immediate incentive to lower the price in period 2 to clear its inventory and capture those remaining price-sensitive buyers. Consumers are rational. High valuation buyers anticipate this future price drop. Instead of paying the premium in period 1, they refuse the transaction and simply wait. By creating a product that lasts, the monopolist inadvertently spawns a ruthless future competitor, its own future self. This internal competition destroys the firm's ability to charge high prices today. Economists solve this trap using backward induction. The model uses a discrete set of consumers, calculating backward from the end of the timeline. In the final period, period 2, the firm optimizes its price purely to capture the remaining residual demand. Moving backward to period 1, the firm must set a price low enough that the utility a consumer gets from buying today is strictly greater than the discounted utility of buying at the guaranteed cheaper price tomorrow. This leads to the limit condition known as the Coase Conjecture. As the time interval between the firm's ability to adjust prices shrinks toward zero, the monopoly price instantly collapses to competitive marginal cost. Because the firm cannot credibly commit to keeping prices high, buyers wait indefinitely. The expectation of a future discount forces the present price down to zero profit. Time introduces the ultimate vulnerability. Without a legal or physical mechanism to commit to future prices, intertemporal dynamics completely eradicate monopoly power. The static single-product learner index is insufficient for real-world analysis. It applies only to theoretical environments where demands, costs, and time are perfectly isolated. To maintain power, a multi-product firm must orchestrate its portfolio across space. It must actively punish substitute goods with higher markups and fuel complementary goods with precise discounts. It must also orchestrate its portfolio across time. To survive the durable goods trap, a firm must enforce commitment through leasing models, planned obsolescence, or strict supply limits to avoid competing against its own future inventory. True monopoly optimization is a continuous, dynamic operation. It requires the constant management of an ecosystem of spatial and temporal externalities.